Every night, without fail, Mara stood on the cliffside, the sea wind whipping at her hair. In her hand, she held a single lantern, its flame a tiny star against the vast dark ocean. The townspeople below would see her lonely light and whisper among themselves. They said she was waiting for a lover, a sailor named Lucien, who had vanished years ago. He was lost to a storm so fierce it shattered ships like twigs against the rocks. They pitied her, this woman locked in time, yet none of them ever dared to disturb her solemn ritual. One evening, a thick suffocating fog rolled in from the sea, blanketing the coast in an eerie silence. The usual crash of waves was gone, replaced by a stillness that felt unnatural. Mara lifted her lantern, and its flame began to flicker wildly, as if fighting against an unseen force. And then, she saw it. A figure appeared on the shoreline below, calm, unmoving, and terribly painfully familiar. Her heart seized in her chest, a painful lurch of hope and disbelief. "Lucien?" She called out, her voice swallowed by the dense fog. The only answer was the cold breath of the mist on her face. Without a second thought, she rushed down the winding cliff steps, each one slick with damp moss, threatening to send her tumbling. Her only focus was the shape on the sand. When her feet finally touched the shore, the figure was gone, vanished. All that remained were footprints, trailing away from the cliff and into the heart of the mist. Hope and dread twisted together inside her as she followed them, her breath coming in short, trembling gasps. The trail of footprints led her right to the edge of the dark, lapping water, and there they simply stopped. Then, a whisper. So gentle, yet so full of ache, it seemed to come from the water itself. "Mara, let me go." She froze. The voice was Lucien's. It was his warmth, his tenderness, his deep, unending sorrow. She remembered that voice better than she remembered her own. The sea rippled before her, and a faint silhouette began to form on the surface. It was him, watching her with eyes she once knew better than the back of her hand. "You're alive," she whispered, the words barely audible. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the sea spray. "No," the voice returned, soft and final. "But you are. And you must stop following ghosts." As he spoke, her lantern flame dimmed, sputtered, and finally went out, plunging her into darkness. The silhouette on the water faded with the retreating tide, leaving only the sound of the waves. For the first time in years, Mara sank to her knees on the cold, wet sand. She felt helpless, shattered, but for the first time, she was truly awake. The romantic fantasy she had clung to for so long had dissolved, leaving behind a stark and painful reality. She eventually rose and walked back up the cliff path, but this time, she carried no lantern. She was followed by no ghost, and she held on to no illusions. It was just her, the sea, and the quiet, lonely dark. It wasn't a happy ending, not yet, but it was a beginning. It was the first quiet step toward healing, a step away from a past that had held her captive, and toward a future that was finally her own. This story reminds us that holding on too tightly to the past, to the ghosts of what we've lost, can blind us to the life that is still waiting for us to live. Letting go is one of the hardest things we can do, but it's often the only way to find our way back to the light. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more tales of love, loss, and the journey of the human heart.